Opie and Anthony Show continues.
Tammy.
Yes, sir.
We kind of blew her off.
Oh, there you go.
Tammy. What's the plug? Because we got John McEnroe coming in now.
My Netflix special next Friday.
Okay, Netflix next Friday, Tammy. Pescatelli. Hi, John.
What's up?
John.
What's going on?
How's it going?
John McEnroe.
Tammy, this is John.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
John McEnroe. How's it going?
Do you remember when we did your TV show?
how
I
could
remember
forget?
that. Remember that?
I didn't have that many guests.
That was fun. I do remember
We had
that.
a good time.
That was fun, man.
That was fun.
How long did the show last?
6 months.
6 months?
6 months.
What do you think? What doomed it? Was it the network kind of telling you not to do what you wanted to do, or?
Maybe I wasn't given the proper amount of time like some of these other people. Actually, I signed to do it on CNBC because I knew that no one was watching CNBC at 10 o'clock at night. So I figured I'd get like at least a year, if not 2, to figure out how to do this. Because it's different, obviously, asking the questions than it is answering them.
Right.
It's trickier. You know, so
You have to
I figured this
listen.
was the perfect vehicle to try to, but then they seem to be like it had to be done quickly.
I know it's old news, but they should have gave you a real chance. You on
Yeah,
TV
and plus
is
we had,
always
like,
good.
Yeah.
The co-host, it was like before the show. I can't even hear myself think here.
There it is.
So the co-host right before this guy, we were like, "Look, this isn't working at all. This is just we got to get somebody else." And they're like, "No, I think this will work."
Right.
And it just was like complete oil and water.
Wow, yeah.
I'm like, and we got to get somebody else. No. And all the producers were like, we got to get rid of this guy. But there was somebody. He must have had some info on some people.
One other point, and then we can move on to other things. We've been lucky enough to do a few TV shows in our careers. You had the scariest audience ever. I don't know where they. I don't know where they bust
that's
them.
right.
Remember? I don't know where they bust them in from.
Only half of them are homeless.
It was homeless. It was homeless and crazy people.
There was some guy right in the front row
Do you
that was like
remember this?
stink-eyeing us the whole
We're
time.
like, wow.
I would have protected you. You should have called.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it was
Troublemaker.
Okay. We were over New Jersey. You know, that's
Yeah.
not the easiest place to get
an
guests
audience.
either.
To get some
It wasn't
live
like
audience.
if they got the next movie that Will Ferrell was in, although he was nice enough to be my first guest, which was nice.
Oh,
but
right, yeah.
it wasn't like, all right, let's do the McEnroe show. Forget Letterman and
Right.
now Jimmy Fallon. And
So since you did interviews and you had to go kind of like work that muscle, do you find that you give interviews any different? Because since I've been doing this, when I do interviews now, I find like I know what the other guy's going through on the other side, so I try to fill the space a lot better than I would have before I did interviews on the other side. Does that make
yeah,
any
I think
sense?
you understand the good guys, if you're doing well, let you do your thing. Letterman was always great at that. He seemed to be able to sort of sense if you needed a little bit of a help or a nudge. And if you seemed to be going rather well, he'd sort of sit back and let you do your thing. So the easier ones were when guys that came on with a lot of energy or knew what they were doing. It's the guys that were sort of, or girls where you felt like you were pulling blood from a stone.
We call it pulling
and then I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah.
That was where, because people were saying, look, you got to be yourself more, which I felt like eventually I wanted to sort of do some of that. I didn't want to just go, you cannot be serious. The first line.
It would come off as insincere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And also, it wasn't that easy getting guests. So a lot of people were nice enough to come on, including some people I knew or had known for many years or seen. Like an Elton John was nice enough to come on. I'm not going to go blast the guy. You know, he's coming. He's going out of his way to come on this show.
You're going to just yell at him.
So tell us, why did you really get married that time? You know, some
they know
heavy
things
talk
about
about
you.
it. So it just seemed like it never had a chance to figure out what to do. I mean, with an audience, without an audience. I'm obviously not a comedian, but I thought it's what I always liked about shows like late night shows or talk shows is when they come on and do a couple jokes, sort of loosen people up.
Yeah.
And I wasn't pretending I was going to be Letterman or Leno or Jim, whoever else, Jimmy Fallon even. He's not a stand-up per se, but he started to do it. Or maybe, was he a stand-up?
I worked with Jimmy right before he got SNL. Yeah, I think he was a younger stand-up,
like in a
though.
So forget I said that.
Impressionist.
Yeah, Jesus.
But I sort of wanted to do a little bit of that, or at least do some skits. I always thought the first 5 minutes of a show should be funny and bring people in and lighten them up a bit.
Sure.
And they didn't seem to really want to do that. You're not a comedian. Yeah, that's true. But if we did something funny, but we had no writers.
You're
the
a funny
first 4
guy,
or 5
though.
months of the
Jesus.
show, no writers at all.
None.
I'm like,
How?
David Letterman, who's a brilliant comedian, has got 15. And I'm some
Right.
ex-tennis player, and I've got none.
None.
So how does...
I didn't know that.
should've
This is
called us.
crazy.
Finally, in the last couple months of the show, we got a couple writers that we were able to hire while trying to unload a couple of people that didn't seem to be fitting that well with the show.
How much stress were you feeling, knowing you had no writers to kind of help you out a little bit?
I was definitely feeling some stress. I think the
That's some
toughest part was
sleepless
doing
nights,
so
yeah.
many 3, 4, 5 shows a week.
Right.
I mean, you guys probably know something about that. But on TV, when you're sort of come on and you feel like you're constantly doing homework, because I wanted to sort of feel like, sorry, I'm not looking over that way.
That's okay. No, I totally
Yeah,
get it.
this console set up like
'Cause it's
that to
sort of
be
set
a
up this way.
snob.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
guy setup.
I don't take it. That's right. I
Guy
don't take it.
setup.
I don't take it
She doesn't really
personally.
matter.
But it's
anyway.
tough to even
I
sort of
don't care.
know a lot about. You want to feel like you want to ask something that not everyone has asked, and you feel like
Right,
you're
yes.
constantly doing homework. What was that I
Okay.
missed?
I said it. She doesn't really matter anyway. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
But you,
I'm
but
not
you-
going to go
man.
there.
Sorry.
you mean watching a movie just because that person's coming up, or
Right.
reading a book just because they're coming up?
Exactly.
And if
Which
you,
in some cases is good.
but if a book stinks, there's nothing worse than plowing through a dog shit
This
book.
was a really boring book. But, yeah.
Well, we just make believe we didn't see the movie. A lot of times we're forced to see the movie or read the book, and if it stinks, we'll just make believe we didn't see
It's
the
like,
movie.
oh, yeah, we're going to catch it.
Or if we don't like it, then we'll definitely bring up how bad the movie was.
Have you done
Oh
that?
God, yeah, because we do this every day. We kind of do things just to kind of entertain ourselves.
It's
Put someone in a tough spot in this room.
Or you find the one good thing in the movie, like what the jackets. What a, what a terrific
Just
job they
obsessed
did.
about
Yeah.
the jackets.
Yes.
John, you're promoting Dove. Are you the new spokesperson?
I am the new spokesperson for the Dove campaign, Dove Men's
Right.
Plus Care deodorant.
Oh,
Anti-irritation. So I sort of fit
right.
into that. If you can
Got
calm
it.
John
I get it.
McEnroe
I
down.
guess.
Right.
I get that.
But actually, I mean, in some cases, it makes sense, and to me, this one does because I'm part of Dove's a big sponsor
Yeah, they are.
of the marathon.
Oh,
Okay. So we're sort of focusing in. I did some online videos and commercials on
Okay.
to sort of promote after what happened last year, not even having the marathon.
Yep.
Earlier this year with Boston, I think this brings an added significance to this one being spectacular
Sure.
and great. So for me, being a New Yorker all my life, living on the Upper West Side, going to the marathon, watching it, seeing these lunatics run 26.2 miles, the idea of sort of partnering with Dove, Men Plus Care, seemed to make sense. And I got to be a coach and not have to do the marathon this
Right.
year. So if they like what I do, maybe I'll give myself a year, possibly. I mean, I'm pretty fit, but I'm not fit enough or quite wacky enough to run that type of distance. So maybe next year.
I like seeing this version of you because you live in our neighborhood. I see you a lot, and you are so not approachable.
That's not true.
Wow.
It's just you.
I guess the days when you
People
leave,
approaching me all the time.
you got
That's
the
right.
you got the
Well, I wear a
hat,
hat.
the glasses, and you're
He's
like,
got somewhere to go.
no, I don't
loser.
I don't even
That's
mean
what
that in a
happens
bad
when
way.
people have
I don't even
places
mean
to
that in
go.
a bad way. But wow, I like this version.
Well, then where do you live? On the Upper West Side?
Yeah, near the river.
Okay, so to me, there's more and more buses, tourists coming along, and I sort of feel like I'm coming back from my gym or workout or in the park, and then they go, and walking up the street now is John McEnroe. I just don't want them to say either A,
That's
like they're
awesome.
taking pictures of B. Who the hell's John McEnroe? I need to hopefully get a little bit of solace during that time where I've had a good workout, walk back home, sort of. I love this city, but it's getting a little hectic and seems to be more crowded than ever.
I don't want to confuse it. I understand. I mean, I understand that you don't want to be bothered all the time. That's all I'm saying.
And by the way, I actually probably, which is the good news, 99% of the people who do come up to me, say nice things.
Yeah.
Which the percentage has gotten better over the years.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite 99 for a while.
A few ugly years there in the 80s.
There were some ugly years.
I used to love watching you play tennis, man. I think a lot of
I
people
love
say
that documentary that they just did recently about
Thank
the
you, Fire and
rivalry,
Ice.
And I love. Were you happy that Bjorn was bald?
He is?
Yeah, he's bald now.
No,
Yeah.
he isn't. I wish
Yeah,
he
they
was.
showed-
No, I'm kidding.
You have to
No,
be
no,
happy.
he's not
Yeah,
bald
he
at all.
was
He's got a
bald.
great head of hair.
No, it's
No,
all
you must be
short
thinking.
and
You must be.
shorn.
Well, it's short, but it's
Because it looks like it's
He's
you
talking
can
about
barely
Bjorn.
see
She's
it
talking
there.
about Bjorn Borg.
Yeah,
We
of
did
course.
a documentary,
Oh,
Fire
right.
and Ice. It was on HBO about a year and a
It's
half
really
ago.
good.
And it was great to do that, especially with Bjorn, because we have this incredible history. And only guy that I've ever played against, probably, that I didn't have a problem with. We didn't get into some type of fight on or off the court. So we had a lot of fun together on especially memorable matches. Off the court, we had a lot of fun. Great friends. So to be able to do this now, but he's got that sweet hair. I'm very envious of his hair. He could
Still?
grow it long. Yeah, absolutely.
Why did you have a problem with most of the guys you played?
It's how you become a great athlete.
Is he
You're
acting
competitive,
as my
right?
psychiatrist now? Or?
Yeah.
Right? That's probably how
Do I
you
get a
become
free
an elite
session?
athlete.
Well, let's move to the couch over there. And
Yes.
you need some
It's a little
tissues.
uncomfortable, this chair.
Who hurt little Johnny?
It was great to watch, though. That's what I hate all this sportsmanship. It's too much sports.
Everybody-
I
Everybody's a winner.
I did have, since this is satellite and you guys like racy stuff, I'll
sure.
give you, and Jim mentioned this, that I was brought up Catholic. I'm going to say something I never told anyone. No, a number of years ago, the priest that was in my parish was arrested for
Wow.
inappropriate activity. So, and I was unaware of this.
Uh-oh.
So my mom calls me and says, John, did you hear, I'm not going to mention names, did you hear about the father? And I said, no, I didn't. Well, he was arrested for, child molesting, etc. So I go, God, that's too bad. That's horrible. I mean, I never would have thought that with him. And then she says, there was this hesitation. And she said, did he ever do anything to you? And then I realized, Jim, that could have been my out for everything I had ever done.
Yes.
And you,
And sometimes we still get together.
Maybe you're angry because he didn't.
Did you recently? It came out that people are saying that Bobby Riggs had thrown that big match
right,
against Billie
right.
Jean
Yeah.
King. Did you?
Well, we always thought that.
Oh, you did.
Really?
Did
We
you?
always thought that because he's a huge gambler. I mean, I played Bobby Riggs in golf once. Me and Arthur Ashe beat Jimmy Connors and Bobby Riggs in golf, and they wouldn't pay us. They said, let's keep playing another 9 holes. We don't want to play anymore. We want the money.
Right.
No. And then they wouldn't, you're not paying us. Well, that's because you won't keep playing. So he was one of these guys that always was hustling. And he beat Margaret Court, who happened to be one of the top female players before he played Billie Jean King, badly. But he was a rather aged guy. Actually, he was somewhere in the neighborhood of how old I am now. I think he was 55, 56 possibly when he played Billie Jean King. And the way he played, how pathetic he performed, made guys believe, or maybe we wanted to believe, that this pathetic performance was due to the fact, and rumor had it that he had done this. Now,
Took the
having
fall.
now at 54 years of age and the body sort of giving out more often, you could see why there'd be certain days where it wouldn't be that great a day, where you could possibly have had a bad day. And I would say that it's a little bit harder to say definitively that did happen, although I'd like to check his bank account and to see. But I
Some
think
money down on her, yeah.
well, it turned out great for, obviously, girl sports. I mean, I have four.
Don't look at me,
I have 4 girls and 2 boys.
and you
So
raised them all, right?
I
By
did raise
yourself?
them all.
You got
not by myself. By Patty Smythe and I have been together
6
for 19.
kids?
Yeah, 6 kids.
Wow.
Two marriages. Yeah. So that is a loud dinner table.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
Because I had all the kids, I had full custody of the 3. I had retained them
That's
for
what I was
a
thinking.
long time, the last 15 years. And so there was some definite energy flowing at the table. A lot of maybe possibly yelling and screaming a bit, but in a loving way.
Right.
Yeah. In a loving way. Yeah.
In a loving
Like,
way. It's great to have kids. It keeps you some sort of good perspective. What about you, Jim? What's your story?
Never had kids. Never even came. I feel like I realize what it is. I'm a sex addict, but B, I think I'm afraid of like once you get married, once you have kids, then adulthood starts. And even though I know intellectually where I'm at in my life, I'm fucking close to being finished. But it scares me to acknowledge that in a way that's undeniable. Like with a kid, you can't deny that kid's getting older and you're getting older. I think that's what's freaked me out. Or maybe I'm just selfish and I don't like taking care of
that's it.
anything.
Yeah, me too.
It's probably
Very
both.
selfish.
Yeah,
It's a little
combination.
both.
I'm very
Everything.
immature though.
What about the fact that you're not going to have a little one? Don't you want to have someone like a little Jim Norton?
I don't know.
It's only good so you
Wouldn't
don't
that
go
be
to a nursing
unbelievable
home.
to see that?
It's kind of cool.
See
I gotta
if
tell you.
the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah,
Just to check.
It's kind of cool. I got two.
Oh, my friends are all having them. Opie's got one, but Anthony and Colin Quinn are my last two holdouts of people.
They're going to have one together.
Now the Colin,
We're working on it.
They're
We're
working
trying.
on it every day.
Yeah, Colin is fighting homosexuality at every turn because Colin's not married and he has no kids. Ant's been married, but he has no kids. So a couple of my friends are still holding out. But yeah, I don't know.
I just
never,
got a kitten. Does
I
that
always
count?
moved to do
No?
it.
You prefer the hookers and strippers, right?
You know what?
Because I hear all your stories, and it just
Right.
sounds like you've never been with a girl that hasn't at least stripped. From what I've heard, I don't know if that's true or not. But
I think you're
That's
right.
can you
a little
imagine in a
hilarious.
normal? Maybe they are normal.
Yeah, there's no Kmart cashier that
I
wants
think
this
you're right
life.
there.
You got to give me an answer to that, though, Jim. Before I always wanted to ask you that.
It's what was the question?
The question was, have you ever? I mean, you obviously prefer strippers and hookers.
Sometimes I do, but sometimes no. There's times where I like it. It's hard for me because my threshold is so high with what I need to not even to get off, but just to be stimulated. That it's hard to find regular girls who can kind of go to that. But I've had a few girlfriends who just read men really well, and a girl who can like own you. That's what I want. And usually, women in the sex business understand the male mentality enough to kind of know what you want. And I don't even mean just sexually, but like mentally when you're fantasizing.
But that's
Wow.
They get it.
That's the physical side of a relationship. Have you ever felt like you've been in love?
He doesn't respect a girl once she goes to that level. He probably
have you
doesn't
ever
want to
been
hang
in
out
love?
with a regular
Yeah,
girl.
absolutely. I love my ex-girlfriend very much. I loved the girl before her, who was just a really nice girl and not a pervert. I loved both of them tremendously and truly, but my selfishness overrode my love.
While you were loving them, truly, were you out with strippers and hookers?
Well, yeah, it's a funny point you raised, John. The way I
Not to get away from the topic here.
no, you're not wrong.
This would have kept
You could
the
use
show
some
on the
Dove
air, John. You
deodorant,
just had the wrong guess. You had the wrong guess.
Doesn't
Yeah.
irritate.
Yes, especially
Yes,
with things I was doing.
irritation.
Right.
So when
Yes.
things get a
You're
little,
right.
I would have rubbed Dove deodorant on my
actually, it
mouth.
might have been
Right.
more for your girlfriends, but this is guy deodorant. Sorry.
Well, I yes, but I did do things I shouldn't have done, but I still love them. Because the way I looked at it is when I was drinking, I stole from my mother and my grandmother to drink, and I stole from my father to drink. And I love them. So it's like sometimes you cheat in a relationship, you still love the person, but just serving that other need becomes
Wow.
so much more. Doesn't mean
That
you don't
almost
love
made
them.
sense.
It almost,
Yeah,
he almost-
that's the same
almost
rap
had
he
me.
gave them before they
Yeah,
left.
Exactly.
That's a great point. When they found that inappropriate text, I'm like, let me explain it.
Yes.
Let me
This goes
explain what
way
that
back.
is. It's me
You
showing
think
my
you got to
love
give
for
it
you.
a shot. Roll the dice.
Yeah.
I'm a bit upset because when Shaq was promoting Dove, he gave his product, John
Oh
McEnroe.
man.
I think there's product around for you guys.
All right,
Right.
okay.
Wow.
I want to make
I
It's
this
all
actually-
different.
They do the Real Woman campaign
Sense
for the
and-
women, right?
Yeah.
Like they have those pictures of those chicks
Yeah.
that are just regular in their underwear. And
This timing is good for me, though, because my wife recently started to say, hey, listen, maybe you should start wearing some deodorant. So, thankfully, Dove Men Plus Care. I mean, you have a strong scent. I love it, honey. But
Did you not wear
people.
deodorant for years?
there was a period of years where I didn't wear it. Yeah, I went
Wow.
all natural.
What was that? Was there a thinking behind it, or did you not like what it did to you, or did you just not care about
A
it?
combination of it, just not into it. This, people are getting stronger and stronger scents, and it didn't seem to be working as well. But I finally found the right anti-irritation, antiperspirant formula. Plus care.
There it is.
there you go.
No, so it's good timing because
I use all Dove products because of Shaq. He came in here with that stuff. I tried it for the first
What
time.
was
and I'm
Shaq
all
using?
in.
The soap or the?
It was
I
the,
think the deodorant and the soap he brought.
It
us
was the
to.
body soap.
Or
whatever.
there's a few. Like, I used the deodorant. I know that it was great.
and the deodorant I use. Yeah.
And with the deodorant, I'm weird. Like I like sometimes when a woman doesn't wear it. If the chemistry, no, but I do.
John's laughing, of
Wow.
course.
But if the
Yeah,
chemistry
jeez.
is right, I love that. I don't want.
Yeah.
I told girls I'll
If the
fucking
chemistry is
throw
right,
your deodorant out if you
absolutely,
bring it over
but-
my house.
Wow, if it's not right, that's brutal.
Yeah, but you don't want to be with a person like that anyway. That's got that foul, awful scent that you. That's nature just telling you like don't reproduce.
When they're barking.
You talking about a beloved
It's like
below
a
the belt?
moldy.
Both.
Yeah.
Just somebody being, clean.
Everybody knows, and you know
Clean
when
is
you
important.
You
stink.
want clean.
Take a shower.
I don't mind. I like clean. I like clean, but a little natural is kind of sexy
We
too.
used to have guys in the tennis circuit back in the day. I mean, things are tough in a lot of places, but in these countries where I guess they didn't have access to running or hot water that often, they'd play a 3-hour match. They come into the locker room, take their clothes off, they get a little deodorant, spray it on, and no shower.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow, that must have
I mean,
been
it
bad.
was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some hot water. You can take a warm bath.
that's horrible.
And the smell after like 3-4 days of the shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that musky, awful. People get that sometimes. They leave their clothes in the washing machine
Yeah,
too long
moofa.
before
It's like
drying,
a-
and that mildew smell. It's like fucking terrible.
Do you still play tennis?
I
still
never
play.
played.
Jim? Or, no, I actually still play quite a bit. I play on sort of an old fogies, seniors. I try to be the Rolling Stones of the tennis tour.
Right, that's got to be annoying.
I mean, they're doing pretty well, right? So it's you look at the acts that are still out there, it's incredible.
Right.
So that's sort of I go out with Borg or now Agassi got like guys Sampras. I mean, guys ranging from few years older to 10, 15 years younger.
Right. Because there's a
Right.
lot of you top athletes, when you leave your sport, you don't even touch it anymore.
Well, tennis is
There's
one
a-
that you could actually play. That
Yeah,
had to
no,
be
I understand,
difficult,
yeah,
right?
but-
No, I meant,
Yeah.
you'd have to find people of your caliber to play because you can't just play with us.
Well, I have a tennis academy up at Randall's Island, for example, where I'm trying to find the next great American player and try to nab
do a
some
reality
athletes
show.
that play basketball or football and try to get them into tennis, which is not it's not very affordable and accessible and other things. That's a whole other topic, but certainly it would be nice to bring the buzz back. It's sort of, to me, I mean, it was a great time in the 70s and 80s. Part of the problem is obviously there's a lot more choices on TV. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, if you had told me that our ratings would be half of what golf was, I would have laughed at you when we were playing, and we get sometimes outrated by chess or poker.
Jesus Christ.
So you got to go out and reach out and grab fans. I mean, it's a great sport, but we haven't done nearly enough. So we sort of fallen back a bit, and the best athletes in our country aren't necessarily playing tennis.
Well, that excitement factor is not there. I mean, obviously, when you were playing, it was fantastic that the unpredictability. Now there's so much political correctness, and if somebody even goes a little off kilter or says something weird, there's this apology tour they got to go on, and so everybody, it's taken that spontaneity and fun and unpredictability out of a lot of sports.
Do you know when
by the way.
in baseball, the guy, I mean, you saw it, I don't know if you saw the game last night, but they made that brutal call in the first inning or whatever, and then both managers come out and they're screaming, and people love that, right? But they don't have the mic right there. They're probably not saying, hello, how are you?
Right.
That would be the
great job, pal.
Yeah.
But we don't have the power for whatever reason. I mean, if you're on a football field during the Jet New England game, something tells me that they're not out there when they're banging into each other saying, good hit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there saying things that aren't printable or you don't want to hear.
No, but everyone would love to hear that.
But well, they'd love to hear it, but it's almost in a way, it's sort of nice if you don't, but you know that it's happening.
You know it's happening, right.
In tennis, they heard everything we were saying and magnified. So it was like, oh my God, John McEnroe said shit. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
You suck, to the umpire. And all of a sudden, I'm Attila the Hun.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're right. Every other sport, they're saying things 10 times worse.
And so we weren't protected. And so then they thought it was like, oh, the inmates are running the asylum, me and Connors and Nastasi, so they have to stop that.
Right.
Which I think was a huge mistake instead of sort of shifting and then handling it a different way. play.
It's also because tennis and things like golf are individual sport. Like a team sport doesn't really need the help, but I think the individual sports, they need a couple of personalities that almost rise above the sport, which ropes people in. And you did that for tennis. I think
Tiger did it for golf.
Tiger
really.
did it for golf.
Boy,
I think
did
the
it.
Williams sisters had part of were very, very intriguing in tennis. But
It's a great story.
You don't have enough big personalities in tennis lately.
You have to
I think.
encourage personality, which they discourage.
Right.
You're totally right. Like boxing, what you want to know what's wrong with boxing? They're all guys that seemingly they're from like Kazakhstan or Russian people. I mean they're good fighters, but they're not.
You don't have a good personal backstory or connect to them, right? Yeah,
and we do need in a sport. I mean, it helps if you have a great American. Right now, we have 4 of the best players, maybe the 2 greatest players that ever lived, Nadal, Federer. But it doesn't have that same sort of interest level, even though they're incredible, that if we had an American in the mix that was sort of battling these guys, I think obviously it helps. So, I mean, that's why it's so important to find some.
We like knowing the personalities of people and having them be different, not just robotic sports players, but they kind of take that and squash it. In football, they don't want them spinning the ball or celebrating or anything. It's kind of
Look
fun.
what they did to Terrell Owens. I mean, whether you liked him or hated him, he was a personality, and they took it right out of him. Man. All those fans.
Wait a minute, they did? I mean, I know what you're intimating, but I don't think they took it out of him. But he probably would have been better off playing tennis.
Right,
because he's an individual in like a team game. But he was about, I think some people would say that it was about him. I think it was pretty safe to say that this guy was a phenomenal athlete, that was a great football player, maybe borderline Hall of Fame player, but he was all about Terrell Owens.
It may be that way.
He himself was out of the game because finally they got numerous chances by numerous teams, and it continued to be more and more.
Allen Iverson in baseball, basketball.
Allen
He did that to
Iverson's
himself. But Terrell was a great. He was a great athlete when he played the game with his team.
Allen Iverson.
Allen was a great athlete, but I think he wasn't X'd out by the management.
You should have a. We'll do a poll.
do it back and forth.
Who's it more about themselves? Allen Iverson, Terrell Owens. And try to come up with a couple other names.
Because we know individuals. It goes to your point, though. It's individuals in a team sport.
You change your name to Ocho Cinco.
It's about
You're wanting some publicity,
right? And then you have to change your number.
Do you your wife? She's still
she's still well. She hasn't done much.
Yeah.
I mean, with the 6 kids that we've had together, has complicated things. But we've been together 19 years. She's actually. I mean, she should be doing this more to me because she's one of the few people that I've seen at her age that still hit the notes and sing the same key that she sang when she sang "Goodbye to You" 30 years ago.
And we always rock out.
And she's also looks good still, and she. I mean, so to me, I'd like her to get out there, but obviously it has to. Well, she's written a lot of great songs. To me, I hear these songs that she's written. I'm like, get it out there, but. Obviously, in this business now, it's difficult to know how to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
The way to do it, the right producer.
Totally different business now.
It's so different that, and I'm just like, just do it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for me to say. Am I getting kicked out? Or?
No, your people.
I
guess you promote
No, this was great. Hopefully, Patty will do a record. And you guys have her on would be awesome.
Oh, you wouldn't have
There's all these great tunes.
Yeah.
It's Dove Men Care. They're saying you in another interview. DoveMenCare.com. And, I really like John McEnroe a lot.
John's a lot of fun.
Come back and see us, John.
What's your
come and visit.
Are you on good terms with the ex-wife, or it's always up and down with you guys?
We're on pretty good terms. We don't talk at all. That is perfect term.
Great.
Do you throw something through the TV when like Paper Moon comes on?
Well, Paper Moon was a great movie.
Paper Moon was a great movie.
It was the reality show that probably put
Her
it
first
over.
2 movies were Bad News Bears and Paper Moon.
Great movies.
So that's a hell of a start.
That is a hell of a start.
And when we met, she was 20.
Wow.
And I was 24.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And so she's about, I'm going to throw her under the bus here a little bit, but she's about in a few weeks to turn the big 50.
Right.
And so to me, I part of this, I'd like to say it was all her fault. We had 3 kids in 5 years, and she was 22 to 27. So when I look back now, when I have from perspective, I'm thinking that was a lot to throw on anyone's plate, particularly when she's got like as insane a situation as she grew up with. So I try to have some sympathy for what I threw her into as well as I was throwing myself into. We didn't know.
It's interesting the fact that you were like the bad guy that was taking America's little sweetheart and corrupting her or being like who you are. And then do you feel like any kind of redemption after a while and realize that people actually went, wait a minute, she was a little batshit crazy and fucking John's a pretty good guy.
That wasn't a bad way to end it.
He really has to go.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Good to see you guys. Take care.
Tammy, where you at? We're out of here today.
Awesome. Netflix next
Damn it.
next week. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You can play some kind of
That's it.
and then I'll pop in. Play commercials. I'll pop in at some point.
All right.
I want a picture.
See you guys tomorrow.
The Opie and Anthony Show on Sirius XM. All right, well, that sucked. To hear the Opie and Anthony Show 5 days a week live on satellite radio, online on your phone or tablet, or even on demand, go to SiriusXM.com. Also, interact with the Opie and Anthony Show on Twitter, @Opie Radio, @Anthony Cumia, and @Jim Norton.